I couldn't talk until I was like late in my 3-year-old life. Like my parents thought there was something wrong. Anyways.
What's going on, everybody? Fung Brothers here. David.
Andrew.
Welcome to the podcast.
Whoa.
Our very first podcast is about whether it's better to be the older brother or the younger brother. By the way, you guys, a lot of people still do not know who is Andrew and who is David.
Okay.
Deep voice, David.
Deep, bigger build, lower voice. Wears the hat. I'm the youngest of the family. We have a family of 3 kids. Our sister's the oldest. Shout out to Tracy.
Being Chinese brothers is kind of significant because not a lot of Chinese people globally have brothers. I do think there is a grass is greener on the other side dynamic.
Yeah.
I am going to be talking about why I think it's better to be the younger child today.
Whoa, why it's better to be me. And then I am going to be talking about why I think it's better to be the older brother.
I think this is better than trying to defend your own position.
Because what am I going to be at the... It's better to be the baby of the family. Like, that's just going to sound stupid. Stupid.
As the older child, I will start off. The reason it is better to be a younger child is because it's easier. The barriers have been worn down. And when I mean the barriers, I mean generally, mostly with the parents. Parents are usually pretty chill on the third kid because, one, they've already been through it a couple times. Mm-hmm. And number 2, they just don't have the energy. By the time there's the third kid,
yeah.
Let's say, for example, you were making cookies, right? Mm-hmm. You had to make like fancy holiday cookies. By your like 10th cookie, you're just going to be like, it's a tree, okay?
Part of it is that the parent wants to yell at the older ones to influence the younger one. If, for example, mom and dad are yelling at you, then I'm going to see that and be like,
oh, yeah, I know not to do that.
Like, they don't even have to yell at me. It's like the yell transfers over. Like, you're here getting yelled, and then it just, through osmosis, goes... My first point that I'm going to bring up of why I think it's better to be the older child, I think you're born with more expectations and more duties. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, that sounds like more work. But then it also, to me, gives you more of a direction in life. Possibly.
Oh, no, for sure. The first child in an Asian family is going to be by far the most conventionally ambitious.
You're given a lot more duties and responsibilities and expectations, but on top of that, more resources and more direct care from the parents. Because you have a duty in life, right? One of them is to, follow what the parents want you to do and be successful and be this second generation that comes up. And then also another part duty that, for example, you and Tracy had was to help take care of me because I'm the youngest.
Well, that's why when she looks at you, you are perpetually a baby.
I'm still a baby to Tracy. Obviously, they look at the firstborn son and they're like, oh man, you're the golden child, man. Like, you're the first son for some reason. My tradition tells me that you're gonna be it. And then by the second son, they're like, all right, man, I hope the first and second kid help raise this third son because I'm tired. I couldn't talk until I was like late in my 3-year-old like life. Like my parents thought there was something wrong. Anyways, nothing's wrong. I'm good.
Like, as the firstborn son, I was treated like a higher draft pick. Because you know how like the higher draft picks there in the NBA?
First round picks, they get the rookie contract.
All right, my point number 2.
What's your point number 2?
This is more a result of, I guess, like less Asian parenting. You live a more fun life. And that is categorically true for any
No, it is.
third kid or younger kid in an Asian family.
I will say that the third child or the youngest child usually feels more free. And this is something I've talked to with both men and women who were the youngest. I guess open, and I would say usually a more conventionally social.
Especially in Asian families because the ancient Confucianism has worn off, essentially.
It's getting weaker and weaker through each kid. Strict Confucian footprint is a lot lighter by the third child. And
if you guys know anything about Confucianism, let me tell you this. That ain't exactly the most funnest philosophy on planet Earth.
In a way, the party pooper. Hongzi was a party pooper. Huge party pooper. Like,
in a conventional Western
sense.
But you know what Dad would say? Dad would be like, what is fun? Just getting together, like dancing and drinking. You think that is fun? Maybe having a stable society where people can learn and develop as humans is. Being Confucian in America is essentially like having the PhD is the player hater's degree.
Yeah.
All right, Confucius was the biggest player hater on earth. Confucius would look at rap or MTV culture and he would hate that. Hit the blow this up button.
He would hit the delete button so quick. Well, there's a story. Half the people we ever executed, which he didn't execute that many, I guess. half of them were entertainers and dancing ladies.
Dancing sexy ladies.
Yeah. And guess what? As the youngest child, I mean, and you too, but we like dancing sexy ladies.
Yeah.
I like to dance. I do think I like to dance more than you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I naturally, maybe it's my wiggly body, my Gumby like movements and my limberness that allows me to. There's an aspect of the funness of American culture is very much probably defined by like the youngest child. Like if you're talking about Cancun and like spring break, I swear, I don't know the statistics, but I think a lot of them are youngest childs.
One thing I realized about the older child, it's like sometimes it's not that they won't go to Cancun spring break, but they won't actually be free while they're there. They'll be having fun, but they'll be like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm accumulating the fun points. Whereas I think the youngest kids, it's like they don't think about it in that like point accumulation calculated way.
Yeah.
They're just there having fun.
But my point number 2 is a little different. I think as the oldest child, you have a built-in teammate.
I think built-in potential teammate.
Right. You have a built-in potential teammate who is at a young age, especially when we're kids and where the 2-year gap means a lot more, you have authority. You're a built-in kind of potential leader if you choose. It's like, David.
Well, you're already put into a leadership position.
It's like where dad's like, David, you take Andrew and make sure you guys are back home for dinner. So
Right,
it's
right.
like you're the leader. But also in that leadership, you get to expose me to things, you get to bring me along to things. Also, I'm sure there's a sense that you gotta bring me along as a tag along, which is also, can be a positive and negative.
I guess on the flip side, though, the younger brother also has a scout leader.
Yes, yeah, for sure. There is an advantage.
So that's why I always give, I always give extra props to John. He coached me.
He did. And he was a single child.
Yo, I was going to say the last
the
thing.
third point?
I think is best about being the youngest.
Just something light.
Why don't you go first, man, on this one?
Oh, man,
Shit.
you're having a tough one. I was just going to say something light like, it's better to be the older one because as the younger one, you get a lot of hand-me-downs. You get all the new
Yeah, that's a good point.
You
I feel like you would get it at the same time that I would, though. It's not like you are in attack forces and I'm rocking the Terrell Brandon. Shout out to Terrell Brandon, by the way.
It's not a horrible thing, but yeah, I mean, I get more hand-me-downs.
Yeah, but then you're gonna get the exposure to the national
stuff earlier.
name brands first. Yeah,
I mean,
like I wore non-name brand clothes into an older age than you did.
No, I experience a lot of that kind of culture at the same time you do. It's not culture comes at the same time to both of us.
Theoretically, I do think the youngest child gets to be the most artistic.
You mean gets the opportunity to be?
Yeah, gets the opportunity to develop that way should they decide.
You were the chosen one.
And I think that with the freedom, you see a lot of kids make a lot of different choices. Like some kids use it to have fun and just party and some people take it and they go to art school. And some people take it and they go become a movie director. Like the movie director is always going to be the third kid. I'm pretty sure John M. Chu is the youngest actually out of his siblings.
Yeah.
I just think it's an opportunity. I always think being the youngest is an opportunity to lean into America, and how you choose to lean into America is pretty much on that third kid.
The less locked in you are into the Confucian box and cube and cell.
Them trying to rise up the dynastic court.
You being in America, it is overall more fun to be the youngest child. I would say that. That is true.
It's better to be the older one if your family system is the best system around. It's better to be the younger one if that's not the best system around and there's another system available that's better.
And you get to, and being the younger one, you get to feel more free to enter other systems as opposed to if you're locked into a bad system as the older child, it's tough. It's tough to break free.
That being from a pretty brainy, educated Chinese family, being raised in a almost lower middle class leaning community, it's really tough to balance that out because one is going to be more fun, but it's going to be almost like, I don't want to say the word low class fun, blue collar, low class fun on one end, or you're going to get forced Confucian intellectual braininess. And those are your only two options. And I think that that's actually why we're comedians, because when you have those two options and you're volleying between those two, you're going to come out an interesting product because they ain't going to be no smooth Irvine choice, to come from. Like, it ain't going to be South Pasadena. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of like a nice,
charming. It was not charming in Kent. There's nothing charming about
Kent. It's a factory town.
Now, here's the thing. It's as a youngest child now, and maybe it's through the influence of you, I value the things that you got. Of course, I understand that there was hardships, but almost because, like, in my mind, I'm like, and maybe it's because I already have this youngest child like mindset where I'm like, oh, like I could have taken some of that yelling. Of course, I didn't get yelled at that time, so I don't know how it felt. But in my mind, I'm like, I would have taken the yelling to get more like Chinese spoken to me. You know, you grew up at a young age. You were speaking Cantonese as one of your first language.
Is my first language. It is my first language.
That's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. And then,
like,
do you think that is what pushed mom and dad to almost like not really push Chinese on me? I
think the fact that Tracy got put in ESL for sure.
Yeah. And then they were just like, oh, by the third kid, let's just have him speak English and maybe he'll pick up Chinese. Maybe that's what they thought. They thought that the Chinese was going to transfer over. That is one thing that did not transfer over.
Also, at that time, it was not looking like learning Chinese was going to be important.
No, it was not going to be dope to speak
It did
Chinese.
Not look like that was going to be a crucial skill.
Chinese,
now it doesn't. Rich executives like Zuckerberg's making all his kids speak.
That's what I'm saying. Nowadays, I feel
the society, the world has changed.
That's why I feel like I do want to learn it. You know, right now, later in life, I realize that'd be tight. But of course, when you were growing up, it feels like it's just getting forced on.
Well, you know, I heard that pretty much 34 is the real cutoff. If you don't learn it by 34, you're cooked. One thing, because I do think I wanted like American things, is that the people at church would always be like, wow, like basically like saying like this kid is like the cute fun one.
Right. Yeah.
And they'd always be like, and you are like the smart one. Obviously, everybody wants everything.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be the fun one.
I want to be a fun and smart one and purposeful one and like wise one. And then you want to be the old or wise one that can still have fun.
Right. And I do think that Asians from like Asian areas might not feel that same sense of like purpose. Like, yo, we gotta be a team, or else people are going to be really mean to us. So I always tell people, because people are like, oh, how do you start a team with your brother and make it work so well? And it's like, well, you guys just have to go through a lot of adversity for being Asian.
Well, you got to acknowledge that Asians are being overlooked, underrated, not treated that well growing up. So then you guys team up. And then also on top of that, your family. So it makes sense. And you have common interests. So then it makes sense.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching that podcast, a video cast. That was older brother versus younger brother. Make sure you let us know in the comment section below maybe what are some other things you would like to hear us talk about on the podcast, what you thought about this podcast, something you learned about yourself. What do you think about your relationship with your siblings? Do you relate? Was it different?
If you don't have siblings, do you wish you had siblings?
And until next time, we're out.
Peace.
So I remember I used to always tell kids didn't even know how to multiply, and I was like, 7 times 7 is 49. And I was like hitting them with that in kindergarten. Ooh. And you know what the funny thing is? It's such a gimmick trick. If you really think about it, the multiplication table, you don't even know how that works. It's just memorizing two numbers together. Like, I actually didn't see the infographic of like 7 times in my brain.
You didn't do them,
but
it didn't go.
Tricked people. People in kindergarten thought I was a genius.